Hello, everyone. I will be talking about A Midsummer's Night Dream by William Shakespeare. First, would like to go about the history of William Shakespeare and Elizabethan theater. William Shakespeare was born on April 1st, 1564, in Stratford-upon-Avon, United Kingdom. He was the third child of John Shakespeare, a leather merchant, and Mary Arden, a local landed heiress. William Shakespeare had two sisters, Joan and Judith. He had three younger brothers, Gilbert, Richard, and Edmund. Shakespeare was an English poet, playwright, and actor of the Renaissance era. He was a part of King's Men Company of Theatrical. There are only two primary sources that tell historians about William Shakespeare's life. They are his plays, poets, and sonnets, and official documents such as church and court records. There aren't many records that exist about Shakespeare's childhood, and there are virtually none about his education. It is said he probably attended the King's New School in Stratford. The school taught reading, writing, and classics. Before Shakespeare was born, his father became a successful merchant and held official positions as alderman and bailiff. Excuse me. William Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway on November 28th, 1582. He was 18 and she was 26 and pregnant. Their first child, Susanna, was born on May 26, 1853. They had a set of twins, Hannah and Judith, on February 2nd, 1885. Hamnet would end up dying at age 11. After the birth of his twins, there is a 7-year period in which there are no records of Shakespeare. They are called Shakespeare's lost years. In the early 1590s, documents show Shakespeare was a managing partner in the Lord Chamberlain's Men, which is an acting company that he was associated with for most of his life. The company's name was changed to King's Men in 1603 following the crowning of King James I. King James men were very popular during his time. Theater culture was highly admired by the people of high rank, and some of the nobility were good patrons of the performing arts and friends of the actors. There is evidence of Shakespeare earning a living as an actor and playwright in London, and possibly having some of his plays produced by 1592. Shakespeare had written and published 15 of his 37 plays by 1597. Several records show that the second largest house in Stratford was purchased by him. It was called the New House. It took 4 years to get. It took 4 days to get from Stratford to London by horse. So Shakespeare spent most of his time writing plays in London. He came home once a year during a 40-day Lenten period when the theaters were closed. Shakespeare built the Globe Theatre in 1599 with his business partners. It was in the south banks of the Thames River. The early plays that were written by Shakespeare were written in a conventional style of the day. Shakespeare was very adaptive, so he adapted by using a traditional style to his own purposes and creating a freer flow of words. From 1590 to 1613, Shakespeare wrote a total of 13 plays revolving around history, tragedies, comedies, and tragicomedies. His early works were historians and comedies. A couple of them were Julius Caesar and Henry V. After 1600, tragedies and tragicomedies were the types of plays Shakespeare wrote. Some of the popular plays written during this time were Hamlet, Othello, and Macbeth. There are many speculations on when Shakespeare died. Most scholars say Shakespeare died on his 52nd birthday on April 23rd, 1616. Some scholars believe that it is a myth. There are church records that say he died on April 25th, 1616. The cause of death is unknown, but most believe he died of a brief illness. Elizabethan theater. Elizabethan theater was a dominant art style of theater from 1558 to 8 to 1603. During the rule of Elizabeth I, Elizabethan theater was much more morally complex, vital, and diverse than the drama before it. The first Elizabethan plays were put on for university students. James Burbage, an actor and theater builder, built the first successful English playhouse in London in 1576. It was called In 1576, it was called The Theatre. It was supported by young playwrights from Cambridge and Oxford universities. Young playwrights were called university wits. During the winter, plays would be performed at Burbage's house with a roof. His son, Richard, was even more famous as an actor and performed almost every major role in Shakespeare's plays. The plague, which is the only thing that stopped the plays, closed the theaters from 1592 to 1594. Shakespeare was not the first great playwright in the Elizabethan age. Christopher Marlowe was the first great playwright. He was believed to have rivaled Shakespeare if he wasn't murdered at 29 in a fight over a tavern bill in 1593. Alright, so we're going to talk about what defines a Shakespearean comedy. A Shakespearean comedy has a happy ending, which often involves a marriage. The main characters are usually young lovers who have to overcome problems. They are usually being interfered with by their elders. There are puns and other styles of comedy. There are elements of reparation and reunification. There are usually mistaken identities, often involving disguise. Now we'll talk about a farce. A farce is a literary genre and type of comedy that makes use of highly exaggerated and funny situations aimed at entertaining the audience. In other words, farce is a literary genre in which the situations are overly exaggerated. It makes the situations a lot funnier just for the entertainment of the audience. I interpret it as something similar to Looney Tunes, in which funny situations that usually wouldn't happen constantly. There are many emotions that can be felt throughout A Midsummer Night's Dream. Some of the strongest ones are happiness, shock, anger, and sadness. But the strongest one to me is sadness, because there are multiple scenarios when the characters become sad after finding out they can't marry someone, that a person loves someone else. The expression and change of tone in characters' voices making sadness much more powerful in a movie than other emotions. The message of the film is that love is tricky. People's feelings about someone can change at any time. People that may not be loved by someone at one point can be loved by that person at another point. The message of the film to today's world is relevant to today's world because it shows how people's love for you can change at any moment. It also relates to today's world because it shows how love can be found in unconventional ways. The scene that lingers in my head after watching A Midsummer Night's Dream is a scene in which Puck puts the juice from the flower of Lysander's eyes, and then Lysander falls in love with Helena. It makes me think of a dream. Before Lysander went to sleep, he was in love with Hermia, but when he woke up, he was in love with Helena. I believe that Puck represents a clumsy Cupid in a dream that keeps making mistakes. I feel as if Lysander is dreaming about what his life would be like if he wasn't in love with Hermia. When he isn't with Hermia, all things around him fall apart. Everything goes wrong when his eyes wander away from Hermia. People that shouldn't be in love fall in love. People that are supposed to be in love separate from each other. Someone's head gets turned into a donkey head. All of these different factors sound like classic lucid dream. A bunch of random things are happening and none of it makes sense. It is representing that when people are not with the ones that they love, they're going through a world that does not make sense. Everything begins to make sense and get back to normal when the spell has been cast off and the people go back to their true loves. Bottom's head goes back to normal. Hermia gets Lysander back, and Demetrius finds his true love in Helena. Everybody goes back to normal and the dream is over. All the damage Puck has caused has been reversed and everyone realizes that they are better the way they are. People live happily ever after. Even after people live happily ever after when they realize that they are better when they love the people they're supposed to love and they don't mess with other people's relationships. So the play goes like this. Hermia's dad wants her to marry. Hermia's dad wants her to marry not Lysander. Wants her to marry Demetrius, but Hermia loves Lysander. And so, days before a big wedding, Lysander and Hermia decide that they're going to run away so they can be together. But as they're leaving, they run into Helena and they tell her, and Helena tells Demetrius in hopes to get him to fall in love with her. So they go into the forest and they fall asleep, and Demetrius and so then Demetrius and Helena follow behind. As they're doing that, some actors are in the forest preparing for a play. Bottom is one of the main actors putting on the play. Also, there are two fairies that are arguing over an Indian boy. Their names are Oberon and Titania. And then Oberon wants to get the Indian boy from Titania, so he tells Puck, which is a mischievous person, he tells Puck to get the juice from the flower to make her fall in love with the first thing that she sees, so he has a chance to get the boy. And then Puck mistakenly makes Lysander fall in love with Helena because Oberon when he sees Helena and Demetrius, he tries to interfere and tells Helena to he tells Puck to put the drops on Demetrius' eyes so he can fall in love with Helena. But Puck accidentally makes Lysander fall in love. Puck also changes Bottom's head into a donkey head just to be mischievous. Titania eventually falls in love with Bottom, and she even has her servants take care of him. Puck mistakenly casts the spell on Demetrius, and now both Demetrius and Lysander love Helena. And then Puck puts a fog over the forest and turns them in different directions so they can't find each other, and they eventually all go to sleep. Titania does give Oberon the Indian boy, and then Oberon finally releases Titania from the spell. Theseus and his party come to the woods where they find all the lovers sleep, and everything's kind of confused. But eventually, Oberon takes a spell off everybody else, and Lysander goes with Hermia, and Helena and Demetrius end up together. And so at the big wedding, all three couples are married. And then Puck does change Bottom back to his normal self. And then there's a play at the wedding, but it's awful. And the 3 marriages are blessed. Some quotes from the play. There are 10. One is love looks not with the eyes but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Another is though she be but little, she is fierce. Another one's the course of true love never did run smooth. Lord, what fools these mortals be. And yet to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. Here are some longer ones. Lovers and madmen have such seething brains, such shaping fantasies that apprehend more than core reason over comprehends. The lunatic, the lover, and the poet are of imagination all come back. One sees more devils than the vast hell can hold. That is the madman, the lover all is frantic, sees Helen's beauty in a brow of Egypt, the poet's eye in fine frenzy rolling, dove glance from heaven to earth, from earth to heaven, and as imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown, the poet's pen turns them to shapes and gives the airy nothing a local habitation and name. Another quote is, my soul is in the sky. Then another longer one is, if we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. Then you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. And this weak and idle thing, no more yielding but a dream. Gentles, do not reprehend, if you pardon we will mend. And as I am an honest puck, if we have unearned luck, not escape the serpent's tongue, we will make amends ere long. Else the puck a liar calls, so good night unto you all. Give me your hands if we be friends, and Robin shall restore amends. The lunatic, the lover, and the poet, earth, imagination, all compact. And then another one is, are you sure that we are awake? It seems to me that yet we sleep, we dream. Alright, so I had to pick 5 of these quotes, and then I had to explain them, or how I felt about them. So, one of the first one that I picked was, love looks not with the eyes but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. I feel that the quote shows that love makes people blind. When people fall in love, they tend not to see what's in front of their eyes. Their mind begins to alter what their eyes should see. The second one was, the course of true love never did run smooth. True love is never a smooth task. There will always be struggles to love. There are always setbacks and rough patches in love. Third is, and yet to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. These 3 things together don't attract many people. People like to separate them, but you can't have one without the other. And then the fourth one was, the lunatic, the lover, and the poet are of imagination all compact. To be in love or artistic is very similar to being a lunatic. You have to be crazy to put yourself through these things. Love makes people crazy. And then 5, are you sure that we are awake? It seems to me that yet we sleep, we dream. Life seems like a dream. There are times when it is hard to decipher dreams from reality. Alright, so I had to pick a song that kind of reminded me of the play, or maybe a character of the play. And the song that I picked was Accidentally in Love by Counting Crows. Then the song is talking about how they were accidentally in love and how everybody's looking for love, but that sometimes love is not in the place that you think it is, but you could like accidentally be somebody that you weren't thinking of. So it reminds me of how Helena and Demetrius weren't necessarily, well, Helena was in love with Demetrius, but Demetrius wasn't in love with Helena. But out of a series of events, and they eventually fall in love and get married also. And then also reminds me of how people that weren't supposed to be in love were put in love by Puck and his clumsiness with the spell. And I will play. Well, I'm not gonna play. I will send the link to the song at the end of this. It is written by Counting Crows, and it was published on May 11, 2004. Alright. And then we had to make a subscription box, but I don't have any materials. And also haven't really left the house. So I'm going to explain what would be in my subscription box for this play. If I made a book subscription box, I will put the play in it along with a donkey mask, a flower, a CD with the song Accidentally in Love on it, and a wedding invitation. The donkey mask represents kind of how random stuff is happening, but also represents how Bottom has his head turned into a donkey's head in the play. I would put the CD with the song Accidentally in Love because, like I explained earlier, it fits the description of the play very well. I'll put a flower because the flower to me represents like weddings and love, but it also represents the plant that was used to make the love juice. So the flower has many meanings in this play. And then the wedding invitation represents the wedding and love, which is usually the main goal that people try to get when they fall in love. Alright. Let me pull something up real quick. Okay, so I had to write a topic, and I had to write an essay, a 2-page essay for that topic. So I chose topic 4, which is, according to Renaissance traditions, love often blossomed at first sight. However, love was said to be an inconstant or changeable and was even likened to war. How are these traditions illustrated in A Midsummer Night's Dream? Well, I will read to you what I wrote and tell you how it fits with A Midsummer Night's Dream. Alright, so we all have pictured falling in love at first sight, but in reality, love is a lot more complicated. Love is changeable and has even been compared to war. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, there are many examples of this type of love. Many characters in this story had to work for love. It was like a war between multiple people. Multiple people. Love is similar to war in the fact that it can change up at any moment and that it takes strategy to get what you want. Love can also be one-sided. Love is a complicated subject and it has confused people for a long time. Love can change up at any moment. People fall out of love or develop feelings for someone else. Love can be affected over time. That's why people that have been together for long periods of time break up or divorce. People grow apart. There's usually nothing you can do about it. It's just life. People also realize things as they get older, and as they get closer with people. People become wiser as they get older. Things that they overlooked or tolerated at one time can change. People get older and get different. People get older and they get different views, goals, or intentions. They can still have love for each other, but they can also feel a different level of love. There are people that can go their whole lives loving someone the same way that they did when they first met them. But then there are also lots of people that still love someone, but they just don't have the same love. They just don't have the love with the same intensity or fire that they want to have. People grow apart because they have different goals or intentions after time. People begin to realize things as they get older. In a relationship, the more time you spend with a person can change your view on them. People may begin to notice things about a person that they did not notice before. An example of this in the play is when Demetrius realizes that Hermia does not love him, and he falls for Elena. Yes, you did have some interference from Puck, but it was bound to happen sooner or later. Another example is when Lysander was under the spell. He loved Helena, but when he got from under the spell, he realized that who his true love was. It's the same as a person who thinks he likes one person, but eventually realizes that another person is right for them. Love is like war in a way because it can require a strategy. Some people may like someone, but that person doesn't like them back or notice them. That is where strategy comes into play. Strategy can be a pickup line, a nice gesture, or a full plan on how to persuade that person to fall in love with them. Demetrius didn't really have a plan on how he was going to get Hermia to love him. He just knew that she did not really have a choice in marrying him. Helena did not really have a plan on how to get Demetrius, but outside forces brought them together anyways. Just like how an unexpected ally can help a struggling country in a war. Love can be a messy process. Just like war, it is full of confusion and twists. There is not a single right way to do it. It just depends on the two sides. A Midsummer's Night Dream has many of these aspects in its characters. There are many twists and turns in the plot. People fall in love, and then out of love, people begin to realize things about the other over time. People think that they love a certain person, ended up with that person. There was a strategy and help to attract another. In the end, everything worked out in the way it was supposed to. Love is a dangerous and confusing game. It can feel unreasonable or rigid at times, but it all plays out the way it should. Just like war, it can be quick or it can go for years. There can be long periods of peace and there can be changes in power. Nobody has mastered love and it will continue to confuse people for many years to come. All right, everybody, that is my presentation. I know it's not as good as Ms. Teasley could have done it, but I tried. Hope everyone's doing well. Everybody stay safe. And thank you.